Okay, let's talk about networks. Networks is a major component in cybersecurity because it's kind of how we share information, and um, it's what most of us are trying to defend is our network. Okay, so you've got a bunch of things that make up the network, right? You have hosts. So a host, think of a host like a computer or something, like a client workstation, a laptop, a server. Then you've got something called media. So media is how the data travels. So it could be traveling over cables, or it could be traveling wirelessly over the air. And then you've got devices that connect us. So you've got a hub, a switch, and a router. Then you've got other things that are connected to your network, like printers, scanners, copiers, etc. Right? And all of that, there's data that is travels to these different devices. Could be files, could be websites, could be emails, and they all transfer over the network. Okay. And the main thing that we're concerned about are the network devices. This is where we're going to monitor. We want to make sure these are safe and secure because that's where our adversary, that's one place our adversary is attacking. Okay. So what is network? It's a group of two or more computers connected to one another in a way that gives the computer users simultaneous access to the same data, resources, and application. Okay. Most networks have a lot more than two devices, but that's just the basic definition. So many times you have a LAN, a local area network. And so all of your devices are inside your home or your office or some local area. Okay. And a LAN could just be two computers. Yeah, it's probably a lot more even in your own house. Okay. And what's important is that a LAN will share a common IP address. So you've probably seen IP addresses that are like 192.168.1, and then your computer is .100, your mom's computer is .101, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, but they share that same numbering system. Okay, and then you've got a wide area network. Okay, usually across a wide geographic area. This is the internet, basically, where you've got different local networks that are connected together. Okay, so let's jump a level deeper and go into your connected devices. So you've got different devices. So in your local network, you probably got a hub, a switch, or a wireless access point. And in a home, your your wireless router probably is doing about five different jobs, and they packed all the software, all the hardware into one device. But your home wireless router is a switch. If it has multiple ports on the back, it's a wireless access point. If it has Wi-Fi, it's a DHCP server and a whole number of other things. Okay. Um, there's a difference between hubs and switches. Hubs send every message to every computer on the network. It's kind of like yelling in a room. Everybody hears all of the messages. A switch is much better than a hub because a switch sends the messages only to the computer that you're trying to talk to. Okay, and a wireless access point is just a switch without wires. Okay, so here in this example of a hub, I can play this little illustration for you, and you'll see the message going back and forth. Okay, so the hub gets a message, And what's it going to do? It's going to shout it to everyone else on the network. Okay. Doesn't belong to PC 2 or 3, so they just gets dropped, and PC 4 gets the message. Okay. Not a bad system, but what if you had 100 computers all trying to broadcast messages all day? That would be utter chaos, right? So a hub is not recommended. And honestly, I haven't seen a hub for a long time. Switch, on the other hand, gets a message and then figures out who it belongs to and only sends the message there. Pretty much everything we have nowadays is a switch. Okay, and then we've got our wireless, or I'm sorry, we've got a connection to the internet, which is our router, and that connects a local network with the wide area network of the internet. Okay, it's also called a gateway because it's your local area network's gateway to the world. Okay, and so here's how, in a nutshell, how the router works. Message goes to the switch, hits the router, and the router sends it off to another location. Maybe it's across town, maybe it's around the world. Okay, so the router can talk to both sides of this particular network. All right, so digging in just a little bit more, every device has a MAC address, a media access control address. Okay, it's represented as 12 hexadecimal digits, and it's kind of like a social security number. It's not changeable, and it's unique to each person. Now, if you were born in Hawaii, the first few digits of your social security number are probably very similar to other people who were born in this state. And that's very similar to a MAC address. There's two parts to it. The first part is kind of like the manufacturer of the device, and the second part is unique to that device. Okay, so when we put these devices on the network, each device gets its own MAC address. And that's how we can send information from one to another. The thing is, MAC addresses can be spoofed. So I can pretend to be one of these other computers, and I can receive information that perhaps I'm not supposed to have. Okay, and we may have time in this class to take a look at MAC spoofing. Okay, and then on top of our MAC address, we also get an internet protocol address or an IP address. This is what is more common. You see this more commonly. You probably know your device's IP address. And you know, this is kind of like an ID card where it could change over time. Or you could belong to many different organizations. You could have a Costco card and a Sam's Club card. Right. And so this is just another way for us to get from one computer to another. So how does that work? How do we connect the IP address to the MAC address? That's a process called ARP. So let's see. So real simpler, the way ARP works is when Bob wants to find Sally, Bob will ARP. He'll send a broadcast message that goes to everybody, and he says, "Hey, everybody, who is this IP address 10.0.0.1?" Sally then responds and says, I am, and my MAC address is A1FF325AECAA. Great, I'll put that in my ARP table, like a contacts list, right? So Bob now stores this network address with this physical address, and now he can use it for the future. He doesn't have to ask who this computer is because he already knows. Okay, and that's just a brief overview of networks. So you're going to need to know networks, and we're going to get into how to find devices on the network and then how to target them and exploit them.